Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the final session of today in this pavilion. Thank you for joining us for this discussion. Can you hear me? Thank you for joining us for this discussion on religion and digital media, representation, respect, and the public square. So the theme of today's panel is misrepresentation of religions in digital media and freedom of expression. Now, we all know from the conversations that we've been hearing today that it's become increasingly important as more of our public conversations take place online. Digital media gives us unprecedented opportunities to learn about different cultures, faiths, and communities. But in so doing, it can also amplify stereotypes, misinformation, and narratives that divide rather than inform. And at the same time, freedom of expression is fundamental to open societies. So one of our questions that we'll be exploring today, how we balance open debate with the need to foster respectful and accurate representation in our digital spaces. You know, these are questions that we've been thinking about for quite some time now, for millennia even, when we think about colonization, decolonization narratives. But here we are thinking about the digital era. So these questions have been with us for a long time, but it's incredible now to think about them in current times. I am delighted to welcome two distinguished panelists. Shannon Saban is Executive Director of European Affairs at the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement. I'll give you a chance as well to also introduce yourself properly. And Dr. Nidal Shaukar is Executive Board Director of ICC-EHS and brings expertise in promoting dialogue. So please, Shannon, introduce yourself too for 30 seconds maybe.
Sure. Would you like me to stand up or should I be sitting?
However you feel comfortable.
Um, Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here today. Thanks a lot for being here. Thanks a lot for your invitation. It's like a great honor. It's my second time here at the ADCT, and it's always like a great pleasure to be here. And I'm always like impressed by the quality of the organization, by the quality of the speakers. So once again, thanks a lot for your invitation. So my name is Shannon Saban. I'm the Executive Director for European Affairs at the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement. And besides that, I'm involved into politics. I'm the National Secretary of the political party, the French political party Les Républicains, where I'm in charge of combating anti-Semitism and racism. And before that, I have been elected for 6 years in France. One of my main topics of specialization is the fight against extremism and the Muslim Brotherhood. And also hate online. Basically, I have been victim myself of hate online from both the far right and the far left after October 7, 2023 and before October 2023. So I know what is it. So this is what I can tell you to introduce myself.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Please.
Hello, everyone. I'm very glad to be in Abu Dhabi today. Abu Dhabi is a capital of peace, tolerance, coexistence, and future, certainly future. And we can't imagine future with a lot of extremist and hate speech spreading everywhere. So thank you for the invitation. Thank you for this important conference that you are doing. You are doing a very good job and really something that we need right now. My name is Nidal Shukair. I'm the Executive Board Director of ICCHS. It's the International Committee on Countering Extremist and Hate Speech. We are based in Rome. I live in Paris. And besides that, I'm a governmental strategic consultant. I have more than 15 years experiences with governments putting policies, especially regarding extremism, hate speech, and all of this stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Well, to get us started, I'd like to ask each of you to reflect on the current digital landscape. How is religion being represented online today? And what do you think are the main forces shaping those narratives?
Thanks a lot for this question. What I can see, and I think that we can all see this, is that today a lot of people, especially among the young generation, is dealing with religion at first when it comes on social media. Kind of, they are like starting to teach religion. They are starting to encounter religion. Like their first knowledge of the religion is going through social media. So that means that social media and online platforms do have a huge role to play when it's come to control, to prevent what's going on and what's being told to the young generation on social media. So that's my first point. The second things and the second topics I would like to highlight is that we also have the feeling that hate online, and I often tell it to the young generation, hate online is becoming common. On a daily basis, I'm using a lot social media and online platforms in order to share contents, in order to share the fact that I'm here today in Abu Dhabi to attend this conference and so on. And every day, every hour, every single minute, I will go through some speeches that are like dramatic at some point. Like, it's becoming normal. When you have some kind words on X, on LinkedIn, or Instagram, or on Facebook, it's becoming something which is an exception, and you are kind of happy about this. So I think that we should all keep in mind that that's not normal at some point, and I think that we'll have the opportunity to discuss this after. But my main fight also on a daily basis is also to have online platforms playing a key role in order to fight online hate. I do think that they have a huge role to play, and I can give you plenty of examples, but we can see it at the European level right now. The European Commission is trying to make apply like the Europe regulation, which is the Digital Services Act, and they have some difficulties in order to make it apply because online platforms don't want to play a role in order to prevent and to remove the content online which is kind of nurtured by hate. And I think that's something which is particularly preoccupying.
Okay, thank you.
Well, today, as you all know, unfortunately, new media, especially, mentioned X, all this stuff, became a good channel for extremists to express themselves because they don't have this space in regular media like TVs, or they don't have. So actually they found their place there in this space, which is invisible space, because you can attack any country, you can attack any religion from anywhere. You don't need to be visible, you don't need to be known. So it's really, we are in a bad situation in that. And backing to your question about how religion is represented in this new media, I think it's represented very bad for one reason, because who's dominating this field is really extremists. So they are everywhere, and not only one religion, all religions. It's, if you have X, you can say anything, you don't have any restrictions. However, I think, if you want to go a little bit about policies, because the idea is really to countering them, to limit them, we should work more on an alternative narratives. I think this is the main, because even if tomorrow we have a decision to, I don't know, to prevent them, it's not the solution. I think they will find another way. They are part of life. So I think the battle today is really to, it's idea against idea. You have ideology against ideology. We are talking about, the ideology of life against ideology of death. So I think we should be more intelligent in working in this. And I think really the most important point is education and citizenship. And here we can take the example of UAE. UAE, just, you don't know, maybe Shannon, in the last few weeks, if you go to X, you will see another country. It's really, you've heard a lot of stuff. But since the community is really based in a good You know, here's the leadership. They really work on citizenship. You have really responsible citizens. You have responsibles, even you know that they are working here, people. So this is really very important. Today, I think we should work a lot on these spaces. You should work a lot together. We should cooperate together against extremist and hate speech. Not only religion, because religion is part of it. You know, it's a part of it. But you know, it's for anything. You know, hate speech is not. It's the same worth as extreme speech.
I mean, you've skipped ahead to all our questions on platform responsibility. Thank you for drawing on that. But just to hone down on that, what role do you think platforms and content creators play in shaping public perceptions of religious communities? So you talked about dominating narratives, and you know who has the power. But what role do you think they could, like, what kind of responsibilities can they take on here in order to ensure that there is actually representation at the grassroots level and not just at this kind of elite level?
To answer this question, I just would like to emphasize on a key example. Our Anti-Semitism Research Center at the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement just published in May 2026, so that means a few days ago, a new study that was particularly preoccupying and that I want to share with you. Our researchers discovered that on TikTok, there was like a campaign of 49 AI-generated fake rabbis that managed to target more than 150,000 followers, reaching 10 million likes. What's behind this? Of course, it's particularly preoccupying because they are AI-generated fake rabbis. But the fact is that these rabbis that are fake, because generated by AI, were kind of spreading completist theories and anti-Semitic tropes. And it was all about fake news. And that's particularly preoccupying because, as we can see, of course, we cannot control AI. We cannot control the evolution of technology and such. And we also have to respect the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, which is at the cornerstone of our democratic societies. But we have a duty, which is the duty of government, which is the duty of elected officials. But it's also the duty of education and of online platforms in order to educate the young generation to critical thinking. Of course, we cannot control AI. Let's not be naive. We cannot control it. And the more we are going to grow in this world, the more like AI will becoming more impressive and technology will become more impressive and such. They are like good sides, but also bad sides. Our goal and what we need to aim for is to train the future generation and the next generation of leaders in order to be able to recognize what's wrong and what's right. To try to be able to distinguish between both. That's the most important, according to me, in order to be able to recognize all this like completist theories, all this disinformation, all this kind of AI fake generated rabies and such. That's the most important to me.
Well, if you permit, I think we should work a lot together, you know, to promote a culture of responsible communication, responsible content for everyone, you know, for students, for leaders, for everyone. Responsible communication is very important in this situation. And we have a very ambitious program in ICCHS, actually, because we believe, as you mentioned, I think platforms, they have a big role. And we believe as well, because as I said before, we are against banning, but we should do also other thing, an alternative. We believe in classification. I think you should have the choice, if you are watching an extreme speech or hate speech, to be, you know, labeled as hate speech and extreme speech, you know. So even if you are watching, for example, fake things, it should be like that. You can't ban it, but if you know the source, it will help you a lot, you know, to decide if you will continue, if you will believe or no. We believe in this because, as I told you before, if you ban here, they will appear in another place. So I think classification is really important, and I don't think platforms, they agree to doing this. Another thing, platforms, they give big money, for example, 10 million views for any content. We are against that. I think they should deduce the amount giving for such kind of, they should not give money for this kind of content, especially if it is classified as extremist or hate speech. You should not profit have money, because it become a business as well, because some people are doing it just to get some money. So instead of that, I think we should give money for people that are putting, for example, for a good values for, So in this way, I think we can have really a good resolution for this problem, because let's be realistic. Banning, they've executed Sayyid Qutb, right? And what happened after? No, it become more worse. So, no, we believe really that you should hit directly to them. You should not, okay, no, we banned. No, it's not. We should face them. So that's why I think platforms, they have a very responsible task today. They should really, we believe in classification, because if you have that choice to choose what do you watch, what do you listen, that will help a lot, and you will see the different quickly.
Okay, great. So I'm hearing a lot about moderation, regulation, discipline. So how do you balance that with freedom of expression?
So I guess that we often speak about the balance between freedom of speech and regulation and online regulation and such. I don't think that that's an issue, basically. Of course, like freedom of expression, freedom of speech is like at the cornerstone of our democratic societies. Like we all agree on this. But I think that we can easily recognize when like some content is like spreading hate. And you can make it the difference. Like at some point, it's obvious. When I'm seeing like online some racist contents, when I'm seeing some anti-Semitic contents, some speeches that are like targeting the LGBTs communities and such. I mean, it's obvious. We can all recognize there are like no standards at all. Like we can see it. And to me, I mean the fact that online platforms right now are not playing their role, in order to remove these contents, also prove that there is like a financial interest behind this. And we all know that there is a financial interest behind this. Why is that? Because online platforms are also playing with some contents that are like nurturing audience and that are kind of being famous. And we have the feeling that at some point, when something is like nurtured by outrage, by content which is kind of innovative, really surprising, trying to bring one community in front of the other community, it's kind of creating more and more engagement. And that's the issue. It's like today, online platforms, their business model is only built around engagement. The more like they can like kind of bring with a post, the better it is for them. So of course that they want to nurture these kind of elements, but we have to be more intelligent as this. And I will give you the example which is the most famous at the European level. I told you just right before about the Digital Services Act. I was particularly happy and very glad when I saw this kind of new regulatory tool being like implemented at the European level. I spoke with a lot of members of the European Parliament about this, members from the European Commission as well. But what we can see is that on the other end, online platforms don't want to apply it. Because if they have to apply it, that means that they also have to restructure their internal teams in order to dedicate more and more people in order to identify these contents, to remove it. Kind of, it's a mess for them. It's a huge investment, and they don't want to go into this. Of course, there is a fine that can be applied. So there are some incentive at some point in order for them to apply this regulatory act. But at the end, it's kind of... I think it's like a good tool, but when a tool is not applied, it's not efficient anyway. So I'm particularly preoccupied by this, but I say that we need to continue to put pressure on online platforms to make them being more responsible of what's going on online. And I just would like to finish by one example. In France, I'm based in Paris, so I can see it. We have an online tool which is called Pharos, which depends to the Ministry of the Interior. And we can see that, for example, if I see a content online which is, let's say, anti-Semitic, I can just notify it to Pharos, which depends on the Ministry of Interior. And honestly, it's particularly efficient. So we do have some models at the national level that are particularly efficient, but I think that we need to push even more at the European level in order to have some name shaming at some point, to have X, TikTok, Instagram, and so in order to apply what they have to apply.
Thank you.
Well, freedom of speech, it's a $1 million question. Just I want to back to France, you know, one Samuel Paty, right?
Yes.
Has been murdered by, he was an extremist.
He was not an extremist.
No, he was an extremist.
He was killed by an extremist.
Killed by an extremist.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
yes.
heard
No,
he
no,
was
no,
an
no,
extremist.
No, not him. He was a teacher.
Of course.
Of course. And, you know, after that, I think you followed the campaign about freedom of speech. And especially we've heard the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who attacked Mr. Emmanuel Macron because he said that, you know, here, you know, this problematic of free of speech appeared. Usually it's more a Western problem because, you know, it's part of the core of our democracy. But, you know, if you have really you can talk whatever you say. You have free speech should be, you know, it's not bad, but you should not attack others. You should not attack religions. And this is really, you can't put, for example, rules to control, because you can't control. It's something ethical. That's why I think it should be started by family, by education. It's very, really important, because if you are very well educated, you won't do that. You won't attack that. You won't go and, you know, burning, for example, Quran, or attacking, I don't know, or it's something ethical, more legal. So I think we should not be going by this populism, you know, something. I think it's even, you know, who do such kind of stuff, they are looking to be famous or something like that. It's this kind of act. So I think we should work more, as I said before, on responsible communication. Responsible communication should be important in our society. We should promote this kind of culture so we can avoid this kind of issues. But unfortunately, we can't do anything. And I think we'll always face this kind of issues relating of freedom of speech, because we can't delete freedom of speech and we can't restrict also freedom of speech, but we can reinforce in other way our responsibility, our ethical in our societies.
Thank you. Okay, let's think about things practically now. Kind of like a three-part question. So first, what does respectful discourse look like? And are there any good examples, rather than dwell on the negative ones? Are there actually good practices that are currently in place that can be replicated on a global scale? And what strategies do you think are most effective against misinformation, hate speech, and online radicalization? Would it be prevention, education, moderation, or community engagement?
So if I may, my view on that is that I think that in order to fight hate online, we should first admit that hate online is like the first step to hate in the streets and hate in real life. What's happening offline can also happen online. what's happening online can also happen offline. So that's something that should be that we need to recall on a daily basis. So that's the first one, because I often hear some people saying that no, it's only happening like online, no risk. It's only like online hate. No, it can also happen in the real life. So I think that we also need to bring more and more stories, more and more examples of what's happening offline that also happen online at some point. That's the first point. The second point is that to me there is not like one single answer in order to fight anti-Semitism, in order to fight racism and all the speeches that are like nurturing hate. There are like plenty of tools that we need to target, that we need to implement. The first one, of course, is prevention, because if you don't educate people, if you don't like teach people what's happening, why it's hate, because at some point some people will tell you it's not hate, it's only about freedom of speech. Of course, you cannot fight it. So you also have to educate people in order for them to recognize when the red line is crossed and when it's not anymore freedom of speech, but when it's going into hate. So prevention, of course, is really important to me, and I do think that, again, social media and online platforms do have a huge role to play in order to make this being even clearer every day. Then, of course, you have the second step, which is how to remove the content when it's identified. And I'm speaking on a daily basis with some people. They don't even know what to do when they are facing some content that are like attacking themselves, their identity and such. They don't know that something is existing. So maybe we can try, and we have to make this kind of tools in order to make an incident becoming public more obvious. Because some people don't even know that you have in their home country a tool that they can just try to activate in order to say, look, I have been victim of a dirty Jew attack online. And then, of course, you have to put pressure, as we said earlier, on the online platform. I will give you here an example which is based on my personal story. And that was also the starting point of the book I decided to write 1 year ago. Before October 7, 2023, I have been attacked online by a guy that I don't want to name anymore, who decided to attack me on his website. He is a neo-Nazi activist, and he said that I had like a dirty Jewish nose and that I need to be killed by Hitler and such. Terrific. When I received it, I didn't know how to act and how to react. So I called my lawyer. And he told me, okay, there are like two options facing that. Either you decide to remain silent and to move forward, telling to yourself that that was part of the daily life of someone who is involved into the public life or into politics and such. Or the second option, which is kind of more risky, it's to file a complaint, to try to pursue him and to see what we can do. And I decided to follow this second option because I do think that silence facing this, it's kind of passivity, and it's also a way of acceptance. So I've decided to file a complaint, and after more than like 2 years and a half with my lawyer, we won. So I'm really happy about that. We managed to make it condemned. So it works. I'm really happy about that. But I have a bad news, and I want to emphasize on this. Of course, I managed so he is condemned right now, but he has decided to escape in Japan. And we don't have any agreement between Japan and France. So basically, because he's in Japan, but he's condemned in France, he can escape and not go to jail. That's an issue. And why I'm telling you that? Not only to tell you about this story and to bring some optimistic stories at the end, but that also means that hate online has no frontiers. That means that you can be in France, but you can be targeted by someone who is in Japan, and there are like no frontiers at all. So that's also something that we need to keep in mind when we need to address hate online. Of course, we need to fight against this plague in our home country. But we also need to take into account that we need to work with other countries, because a website is a website at the end. What's happening on X in the United States can also reach out to people in France and there are no frontiers. So there is also kind of bridges that need to be made and cooperation that we need to emphasize when it comes to fighting online hate between some countries.
Well, first of all, congratulations, you won. It's good to hear that. I believe that we should work on this issue on 3 levels. First level, society. And society, we have a lot of prevention, as we've mentioned, education, education, education. Education is very important, you know, to create a new generation that respect each other, that they expect, that they accept the other. So I think we can decrease a lot this kind of issue. Second level of facing this problem, I think it's on government. So governments, they put more rules, more restrictions. I think they should put a lot of fines. It should be like fines. So why, for example, if you have a problem with the car, you have a big fine, so you don't do it again. I think it could work, it could be helpful. So I think government should be more restricted about this and take it more serious, because the poor teacher, Samuel Paty, he was a victim of extreme speech online. He was brainwashed online and he killed his professor. So government should take this issue seriously, and they should put more rules to regulate it and to make it more difficult, so people can really pay for it, so they can really pay. It's very important. But I think the most important role is on platforms. So we go back to platforms, because fortunately you've been attacked by someone who's known. But imagine if you were attacked by someone not identified.
Absolutely.
So that's why I think the first step, all people who's using the social media and network should be really very well identified. So that's why they should be responsible about their content. So if they are saying any content, you know, you can reach them. You can ask them why you are doing this. This is really a main point. It will help a lot. Because a lot of people, they try to do this kind of, this kind of stuff hidden. You don't know, or using another name, or so it's really identifying is very important, and I don't think platforms nowadays is very, cooperative in this issue. And second thing, as we said before, platform should really work on classifying content. So also this is another thing, it's very important, because it's for public, especially for example for adults that they are watching. They should know that they are watching a bad content, an extremist content, a hate content. So they know, so they will not be mesmerized by this content. So it's really important. So these are the 3 levels, and I think there's a lot of things to do, especially for platforms.
Thank you. Do we still have time for maybe one more question? Is that okay? Yeah.
Let me have questions from audience.
Okay, let me take one. Let me do one more question, and then I'll come to the audience. Yeah. So we've talked about different bodies here, right? We talked about the government. We talked about civil society. We talked about technology companies, and we've also talked about educators. So I just wanted to hone down on what they should each be responsible for here, and how cooperation can actually materialize today.
So if your question is about like cooperation, I'm pretty convinced that cooperation is key in every sector and in every fight. When you decide to join your forces, you are even more stronger than hate at some point. So the fight against hate, especially when it's online, I think should be more efficient, and is more efficient when you decide to mobilize like all the levels of societies. That means, of course, the civil societies, organizations, companies, governments, the education sectors, but also family. I'm pretty convinced that education is key, as we said before, in order to fight this hate online. But I mean, education at school remains at school, but what's going on when children decide to go back home? So family also have a huge role to play in this fight. If we want to master technology, if we want to master AI, and only to take advantage of the positive part of these new tools, we also have to be aware of what's going on. And I need to, like every levels of society need to be responsible in order to promote best practices. I'm kind of dealing with some companies that are operating within the civil society, and they are, for example, offering some trainings to their people that are working within the companies in order to tell them like what's to be responsible, how to react when you are using AI, what you can share, what you cannot share. And I think that's something that should become even more normal today, just to better understand how it works and to act responsibly, like in a responsible way at the end. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cooperation. Yeah. It's the key for this battle. Unfortunately, we have good models of cooperation like UAE. We are here. The cooperation is really perfect. That's why here I don't think that there is hate and extreme speech. You're living here. I think it's very few or doesn't exist because cooperation is really perfect. However, in other countries like Europe, it's a bit complicated to to cooperate between government itself, between society, because there is a big there's really a big problem, and the most important obstacle, I think, it's platforms, because most of the platforms right now, they are they are essentially from USA, right? And they are working all over the world. So, to cooperate with them, it's a bit difficult. But, we should work more really to cooperate, because really cooperation is a key for this battle. We can't fight extremist and hate speech online if we don't cooperate together. There is a good initiative regarding AI, that France and UAE and India, they work a lot on AI, not on the technology, they work on ethical AI. So I think it's a good example as well how, as cooperation on international level. So there is no, a magic solution for cooperation, but we hope there is examples, hope other countries that can follow.
Thank you. Okay, should we take questions from the audience?
Real quick, I'm from America. In our country, the legal law, the barrier is speech that is violent or inciting violence. And we, I think, are all against hate speech or attacks, but sometimes people could just simply disagree, and that becomes also forbidden. So the other direction, how do you distinguish from a policy-wise between hate speech attacks and simple disagreement?
I think that it's quite simple actually to identify the barrier and the frontier between both. You can disagree with someone being respectful, but when you disagree with someone being disrespectful, then it becomes hate. And then you can make the distinction very clearly. And I think that's the answer to your question, and that's also like kind of the challenge of our daily society. I mean, when you are trying to attack someone being very mean, that's not like you don't disagree with someone. You are attacking someone. And we can see it right now when it comes to the international conflict and such. When you say to someone that she is or he is a dirty Zionist, when you are using dirty Zionist, you are not trying to discuss with this person. You are trying to attack this person. So there are no bridges, there is no communication anymore. So I think that this is precisely the red line which is crossed, and when you are you are diving into hate speech. Of course, and I am also a politician, so I'm particularly attached to the principle of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And I do think that it's really important, and we have to recall it on a daily basis. You can't disagree with someone, of course. It's legit. It's definitely legit. And we have to in democracy. But when you try to attack someone in order to share an ID, that's not possible anymore. And the fact is that in our common societies, we cannot debate anymore. Look at some political parties, and I can see it in France. They are playing with hate in order to share their ideas, in order to bring one community against another, in order to instrumentalize communities in order to gain voters. And I can see it in France. Division is kind of food for them in order to gain voters. There is no debate anymore. And the role of our government, our role as civil societies, politicians, governments, is just to recall it very calmly. But like that should be obvious.
Well, thank you for this question. It's a very important question, and it's a very open question because, you know, the definition of hate speech is not the same everywhere because for one simple reason, it's not written. So I think here is the role of government, and here talking about the regulations, they should precise what is really a hate speech, what, you know, and even it should be classified as well. You know, this hate speech, it's only like insult. Another one, no, he's, you know, it's threatening of killing. So it should be classified, and it is the role of the government because we can agree and disagree till the morning about the definition. So I think it's really the role of the government. Government, we have few rules about this. So that's why I think government should work more and more to precise and to control this problematic.
Do you think you've got time for one more question?
Sure.
Yeah. Maxime.
Thank you. Yes, thank you for this insightful presentation. I live in Abu Dhabi, and but I am from France as well.
Look at you.
Yes, and my question is particularly for Shannon. Regarding the instrumentalization of religion in France. So because we talk here about digital platforms and AI and everything, but how about the political forces and groups that are using religion in France and other countries in Europe, particularly Islam, and the tolerance of the French government towards these groups such as Muslim Brothers, who are here forbidden and banned from the country. And we talk about UAE as a model of tolerance and safety, and I can acknowledge that it's true, but there is a reason for that, because Muslim Brothers have been banned from the country.
Absolutely.
Okay, I work in a university, in Al Ain UAE University. When I arrived in 2018, the College of Law was full of Muslim Brothers coming from Egypt. Okay, so they took them out of the country. Okay, no chance, okay, overnight. And how about the role of the government, the French government, to change that? Because there is so much tolerance towards these groups and media, because, I mean, people are saying, well, the media are controlled by Jews, but how about the media controlled by Muslim Brothers? Okay, so that's a big question, and I don't know if you can answer it, but thank you so much. Thank you, Chen.
Thanks a lot for your question. To be fully honest with you, I'm particularly preoccupied by the current situation in France. I am particularly preoccupied by the situation now in France, and especially in Europe when it comes to the Muslim Brotherhood. Why is that? Because as you can see, a lot of Arab countries have decided to ban the Muslim Brotherhood, whereas they are gaining ground in France, in Europe, and in the Western world. There is something wrong, no? So this is particularly preoccupying. What they are doing right now, because I don't hear some people saying what you are saying is only about complotism, the Muslim Brotherhood don't exist. Of course they exist, but it's a network that you cannot see physically, but they are like very well structured, and they know how they operate because they know how we are working in the Western world. They know how to infiltrate mosques, they know how to infiltrate the European Parliament, the European Commission, schools, organizations, council, city council, and such. They know how to deal with this. But at the same time, we are looking at this, saying, no, it's a threat, but that's not an immediate threat. Of course it is. Of course it is. And in France, because you are raising this topic and I'm particularly happy about that, they have decided to infiltrate some political parties, and especially the far left of La France Insoumise and Jean-Luc Mélenchon. And these people, which are, I just would like to recall it, elected, so that's particularly serious because they are kind of rearing our colors. You know what I mean? The French flags and such. They are now playing with some communities, and especially the Muslim communities, in order to gain voters. And I can tell you this because I have been elected for 6 years in Seine-Saint-Denis. Maybe you know this area, where we have most of the people who are elected over there, and especially members of the French Parliament, that are coming from La France Insoumise political party. And I can see how they operate. When you are going in the streets, when you are running for a political campaign, they are not speaking about education, environment, health, economy. No, not at all. They are only speaking and only dealing with Gaza and Palestine. They are playing with community. And that's absolutely a shame and a pity. And one of my main kind of motivation on a daily basis when it comes to my political commitment is also to denounce this and to make it clear. Because what's going on is particularly preoccupying, and we have a lot of journalists in France that are like doing some surveys in order to show the links that are now obvious between the Muslim Brotherhood, between Islamism, and there's people who are now elected in France. And the more we will wait in order to tackle this issue, the more we will be in a bad situation, and it will be very difficult to go back to something which will be more healthy at some point.
Thank you.
Just
You'd like to
one
okay.
phrase to answer you easily. I think France is paying for its democracy. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, let's give a huge round of applause to our incredible panelists. We could have sat here and talked for many more hours. But thank you again. That's it for time, right? Yeah. Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.